Welcome to another deep dive. This time into one of history's most, I guess you could say, captivating unsolved mysteries,
Yeah,
the Black Dahlia case.
it's a good one.
We are stepping back in time to 1947 Los Angeles,
Right?
a city that was buzzing with post-war optimism, but also hiding kind of a darkness that would soon grip the nation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This era, kind of this blend of hope and anxieties, really creates this powerful backdrop for the story of Elizabeth Short.
Exactly. And we've got a fantastic collection of sources for you today.
Okay.
We've got Wikipedia, FBI records, and even a recent news article.
Wow.
So we'll unravel the facts, explore the theories, and try to make sense of a case that continues to both fascinate and frustrate.
Yeah, it's amazing how this case, despite happening decades ago, still holds such power over the imagination.
Yeah.
And even had a significant impact on the development of criminal justice, particularly regarding sex offender registry.
It's a great point to bring up. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with Elizabeth Short herself.
Okay.
Who was she before she became known as the Black Dahlia?
Well, she wasn't a California girl.
Okay.
She was actually born in Boston in 1924. And her early life was kind of marked by hardship.
Yeah.
Her father disappeared when she was young, presumed dead.
Oh, wow.
And she battled, various health issues, particularly respiratory problems.
I can't imagine facing such challenges at such a young age. It must have had a profound impact on her.
Yeah, it's no surprise then that despite that difficult childhood, she was really drawn to the promise of a new beginning in California.
Yeah.
So in 1942, she received a letter from her father, and it turns out he was alive and well living in Vallejo.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
a big surprise.
big surprise. So just 18, she headed west to reconnect with him.
That must have felt like a chance at a fresh start. It's a story that resonates with so many people who've sought a new life in California.
Yeah.
But sadly, it doesn't sound like that reunion went as planned.
You're right. Family dynamics can be complex, and she ended up clashing with her father, and she moved out.
Okay.
Kind of starting this nomadic life, bouncing between cities and jobs. She worked at an army base, even got in trouble for underage drinking, which, might seem minor today, but back then was a much bigger deal.
Yeah.
And could even, damage a young woman's reputation.
It's a stark reminder of how societal norms have changed.
Yeah.
A young woman on her own in the 1940s faced challenges that we might not even consider today.
Absolutely. And it's important to consider that context here as we try to understand Elizabeth Short's story.
Right.
This wasn't just some Hollywood hopeful.
Yeah.
This was a young woman navigating a really complex and often unforgiving world.
And all of this eventually leads her to Los Angeles in 1946,
Yeah.
a city brimming with both opportunity and danger.
And here's where the myth of the Black Dahlia kind of begins to take shape. She's often portrayed as this aspiring actress, drawn to the bright lights of Hollywood.
Yeah.
But there's really no concrete evidence she ever had any acting jobs. It's more about the image she projected, the allure, the mystery.
That's a crucial point, I think. The line between reality and fantasy can blur easily,
Yeah,
especially in a place like Hollywood.
absolutely.
And that blurred line would become even more pronounced after the horrific discovery on January 15th, 1947.
Right. A mother out for a walk with her child stumbled upon what she initially thought was a mannequin in a vacant lot.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't a mannequin. It was Elizabeth Short's body.
Yeah.
Naked, severed at the waist, and posed with chilling precision.
I remember reading about those initial reports.
Yeah.
The details were absolutely gruesome. Not only was she bisected, but her face was slashed into that horrific Glasgow smile, and there wasn't a drop of blood at the scene.
The lack of blood immediately indicated that she was murdered elsewhere and brought to the vacant lot. The killer had clearly gone to great lengths to stage this horrific tableau.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a murder, it was a statement.
The brutality of the crime sent shockwaves through Los Angeles and beyond.
Yeah.
And the LAPD, under immense pressure to solve the case, launched this massive investigation.
You're right. They deployed something like 750 investigators. That's including sheriff's deputies, state patrol officers. They were combing through storm drains, searching abandoned buildings. They'd even dredged the LA River. It was an unprecedented effort for the time.
And adding to the pressure, I imagine, was the media frenzy that erupted around the case.
Yeah.
Newspapers across the country, especially the LA Examiner, were vying for every scrap of information, every every salacious detail.
It's fascinating how the media's obsession with the case, while fueling public interest, also muddied the waters, leading to numerous theories and suspects, some more credible than others.
It's a pattern we see repeated in high-profile cases even today.
Yeah.
The desire for information, the need to make sense of the senseless, can sometimes overshadow the search for truth.
Absolutely. But in the midst of all this chaos, there was one technological breakthrough that actually aided the investigation.
Okay.
The FBI used a new technology called sound photo to identify Elizabeth's fingerprints in just 56 minutes.
Wait, 56 minutes. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Especially for 1947. Tell me more about this sound photo technology.
Well, this technology, brand new at the time, allowed them to quickly match Elizabeth's fingerprints to her military records.
Okay.
And it was really a major breakthrough in forensic science, and it showed the potential for technology to really speed up investigations.
Right.
And also just gave investigators a crucial starting point, confirming her identity and connecting her to her past.
That's a really interesting detail, I think. It highlights how, even in a case steeped in the past, we can see glimmers of the future of criminal justice. But unfortunately, even with this technological advantage, the case quickly became bogged down by dead ends and conflicting information.
And it's at this point that the rumors and speculation really begin to take hold. The public, hungry for answers, just latched on to any theory, any whisper that might shed light on who killed the Black Dahlia.
And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll explore the key suspects, examine those tantalizing theories, and try to separate fact from fiction in a case that has captivated the public for generations.
So let's dive into the heart of the investigation.
Okay.
As we mentioned earlier, the LAPD was facing immense pressure.
Yeah.
The public was demanding answers.
Right.
And the media was relentless in its pursuit of the story.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to imagine the scrutiny that they were under.
It's crazy.
And to make matters worse, it wasn't long before they started receiving those chilling letters.
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly from the killer.
The letters, yeah.
Yeah.
They were sent to the LA Examiner, composed of words and letters cut from newspapers.
Wow.
And they claimed the killer would turn himself in.
Oh, wow.
But it was all a cruel hoax.
Oh.
It's as though the writer was relishing the fear and chaos that he was creating.
It's truly disturbing. But didn't those letters also contain some personal belongings of Elizabeth's?
Yes, that's right. One of the envelopes contained her birth certificate, some photographs, and even an address book with a name embossed on the cover.
Okay.
Mark Hansen.
That must have been a major breakthrough for investigators.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this Mark Hansen. Who was he, and what was his connection to Elizabeth Short?
Mark Hansen was a wealthy nightclub owner.
Okay.
And Elizabeth had stayed at his house with friends.
Okay.
Some sources even suggest a possible romantic connection, with rumors that she may have rejected his advances.
Oh.
He became a prime suspect early on in the investigation.
So it sounds like he had both motive and opportunity.
Yeah.
Was there enough evidence to charge him with the crime, though?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh.
While Hansen remained a person of interest, he was eventually cleared of suspicion.
Okay.
And the LAPD, in its, exhaustive search for answers, investigated hundreds of men in those initial weeks. Anyone who seemed like a possible lead.
It must have been like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
It was a massive undertaking.
Did any other suspects emerge from that initial wave of investigation?
Well, there was Robert Manley.
Okay.
The salesman who had been one of the last people to see Elizabeth alive.
Okay.
He was also a suspect, but he passed numerous polygraph tests and was eventually ruled out.
I can't even begin to imagine the frustration investigators must have felt. So many potential leads, but no clear path to the truth.
Right, and remember, this was long before DNA testing. So they were relying on fingerprints, witness statements, and good old-fashioned detective work.
It was a different era of criminal investigation.
It was, yeah.
But despite their tireless efforts, the leads kept running cold.
Right.
By the spring of 1947, the case had gone cold.
Yeah.
That's incredible to me.
It's amazing.
A crime this shocking with so much public attention could just go unsolved.
I know.
It must have been devastating for Elizabeth's family.
Yeah.
Not to mention the LAPD.
It was. It was a major blow to their reputation.
Yeah.
A grand jury even convened in 1949 to look into the department's handling of unsolved murders,
Wow.
including the Black Dahlia case.
No.
But despite the scrutiny and the additional investigations,
Yeah.
no one was ever charged.
So, so with the official investigation stalling, that's when the theories and the speculation truly take over.
Precisely. Over the years, literally hundreds of people have come forward, some confessing to the crime, others claiming that their relatives were responsible.
Oh, wow.
And as time has passed, more and more theories emerged, linking the Black Dahlia case to other unsolved crimes.
It's like a real-life detective novel full of twists and turns.
It is.
One theory that always intrigued me was the possible connection to the Cleveland torso murders.
Oh, yeah.
That case, with its gruesome dismemberments,
Right.
seems eerily similar to the Black Dahlia.
The parallels are certainly there.
Yeah.
Both cases involved mutilation. Both remain unsolved.
Right.
And several crime authors and even a few investigators have suggested a possible link.
Well, while I see the similarities, the geographical distance between Los Angeles and Cleveland just seems like a stretch.
Yeah.
Did the LAPD ever seriously consider this theory?
They did look into the torso murders back in 1947
Okay.
as part of their initial investigation,
Okay.
but ultimately ruled it out.
Okay.
And officially, they've dismissed any connection between the two cases.
It's hard not to let the imagination run wild, especially with a case as mysterious as this one.
It is, yeah.
And then there's the theory connecting the Black Dahlia to the lipstick murders in Chicago.
Uh,
That case, with its taunting notes and brutal murder of a young girl, also captured the nation's attention.
yes, the lipstick murders.
Yeah.
It's another chilling case that unfolded around the same time.
Right.
The killer, William Aarons, was eventually caught
Right.
and convicted.
Yeah.
But some still believe he could be tied to the Black Dahlia.
I remember reading about the similarities in the notes sent to the police. The ransom note in the Degnan case and the letters in the Black Dahlia case both used that strange combination of uppercase and lowercase letters.
That's right.
Weren't there even some matching words and misspellings?
That's right. And the fact that Elizabeth's body was found on Norton Avenue, just a few blocks from Degnan Boulevard,
Wow.
is seen as another eerie coincidence by some. But again, no official link has ever been established.
So we're left with a web of theories.
Yeah.
Some more plausible than others.
Right.
But even with all these potential connections, the Black Dahlia case remains shrouded in mystery.
And that's what keeps people coming back to this case, even after all these years.
Yeah.
Is the unanswered questions, the possibility that there's still a piece of the puzzle out there,
Right.
waiting to be found.
But amidst all the speculation, it's important to remember that this wasn't just a sensationalized crime story.
Right.
This was a real person, a young woman with hopes and dreams whose life was tragically cut short.
You're absolutely right. And as we delve further into the complexities of this case, we need to be mindful of separating the myth from the reality.
It's a good point. With so much speculation and sensationalism surrounding the case, it can be difficult to get to the truth about who Elizabeth Short really was.
It is.
There are so many conflicting stories.
Yeah.
So many rumors about her personal life.
Exactly. Some sources paint her as a prostitute.
Right.
Others claim she was incapable of sexual intercourse due to a physical condition.
Yeah.
There are even rumors that she was a lesbian.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack.
I've encountered those same rumors in my research.
Yeah.
But a lot of it feels like gossip. You know, innuendo fueled by the media's desire to create a narrative.
Right.
To paint her as a femme fatale, a temptress who somehow brought this tragedy upon herself.
Yeah. It's crucial to approach these claims with a critical eye. You know,
right.
Remember, this was the 1940s.
Yeah.
A time when societal attitudes towards women, especially single women, were vastly different than they are today.
Yeah, it was a time when a woman's reputation could be easily tarnished, her actions easily misconstrued.
Precisely. It was, it was easy to label Elizabeth Short as a loose woman.
Right.
To use her perceived lifestyle to justify her murder.
Right.
But we need to be wary of falling into that same trap of perpetuating those harmful stereotypes.
It's a disservice to Elizabeth Short and her memory,
Absolutely.
which shifts the focus away from the real issue, a brutal unsolved murder.
And it distracts from the very real impact that this case had,
Right.
not just on the public's imagination,
Yeah.
but on the criminal justice system itself.
You're referring to the creation of sex offender registries, right?
Exactly.
You mentioned that earlier, and I'd love to hear more about that connection.
Well, just 2 weeks after Elizabeth Short's murder, a California assemblyman named C. Don Field introduced a bill calling for the creation of a sex offender registry.
Wow.
California became the first state in the U.S. to implement such a registry.
Wow.
And it's widely believed that the public outcry over the Black Dahlia case, the fear that a dangerous predator was still out there, played a role in its passage.
That's significant legacy,
Yeah.
especially considering how widespread sex offender registries are today. It's a reminder that even amidst the tragedy and the unanswered questions, there were tangible, real-world consequences.
Absolutely. Even though the Black Dahlia case remains unsolved,
Yeah.
its impact continues to be felt.
So where does this leave us?
Yeah.
With the case still open, are there any promising leads, any new developments that might finally bring Elizabeth Short's killer to justice?
That's the question that has haunted investigators and armchair detectives for decades.
Right.
And while the answers remain elusive,
Yeah.
there have been some intriguing developments in recent years.
Okay.
We'll delve into those in part 3 of our deep dive.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Black Dahlia case. We've explored the crime, the investigation, and the many theories that have swirled around it for decades.
It's a case that, truly captures the imagination, not just for its brutality, but also for that enduring mystery that surrounds it. Despite the passage of time, there's still a glimmer of hope that we might one day uncover the truth.
And speaking of hope, you mentioned some intriguing developments in recent years. So let's start with one of the most compelling and controversial theories, the one put forth by Steve Hodel, a former LAPD homicide detective who believes his own father, Dr. George Hill Hodel, was the Black Dahlia Avenger.
Yeah, Steve Holt's investigation is remarkable, not just for the accusations that he levels, but for the intensely personal nature of his quest. He claims to have found photographs of a woman who strongly resembles Elizabeth Short, hidden in a secret compartment of his father's belongings. He also points to Dr. Hodel's medical training as evidence of his ability to perform such a precise dissection.
I can only imagine the internal struggle of accusing your own father of such a horrific crime. It speaks to Steve Hodel's dedication to finding the truth, no matter how painful it might be. But are those photos the only evidence he's uncovered?
Not at all. He spent years compiling a massive amount of circumstantial evidence. Dr. Hodel was, after all, a suspect in another murder case, the death of his secretary, Ruth Spalding, and he was accused, though later acquitted, of sexually assaulting his own daughter.
That certainly paints a dark picture of Dr. Hodel, but was there anything more concrete linking him to the Black Dahlia murder, something beyond these circumstantial connections?
One particularly chilling piece of evidence is a transcript of a wiretap recording from Dr. Hodel's house. The LAPD had him under surveillance back in 1949, and in one of the recordings he's heard saying something to the effect of, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it now."
Wow, that's a pretty incriminating statement. I can see why Steve Hodel has pursued this line of investigation so relentlessly, but has this evidence been enough to convince law enforcement to reopen the case?
Unfortunately, no. While Steve Hodel's theory has garnered a considerable attention, it's also been met with skepticism from some investigators and crime experts. They argue that the evidence, while suggestive, is still circumstantial. There's no smoking gun directly linking Dr. Hodel to the crime.
It's a frustrating reality of cold cases. Sometimes even with compelling evidence, it's difficult to reach a definitive conclusion. But Steve Hodel's investigation isn't the only new development in recent years. There's also the book Black Dahlia, Red Rose by Pugh Eatwell. She focuses on a different suspect, Leslie Dillon. Can you tell us more about him?
Dillon was a bellhop and a former mortician's assistant.
Oh, wow.
Which is a rather unsettling combination in this context. Eatwell's theory suggests that Dillon was involved in a hotel robbery scheme that Elizabeth Short somehow got tangled up in.
So a possible motive emerges. Short knew too much and had to be silenced. But does Eatwell provide any specific details about how Short might have crossed paths with Dillon and his associates?
Eatwell believes that Short was killed at a motel called the Astor Motel in Los Angeles, and she draws connections between Dillon, his associates, and even a corrupt police officer, hinting at a possible cover-up.
So it sounds like she's piecing together this complex web of connections and potential conspiracies, but is there any hard evidence to support her claims?
As with Steve Hodel's theory, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence and speculation in Eatwell's book. While she presents a compelling narrative, it's difficult to say with certainty whether her theory holds more weight than others.
It seems like every time we get close to a possible answer, the mystery deepens, but maybe that's part of what makes the Black Dahlia case so enduring. It's a puzzle that refuses to be solved, a story that continues to unfold with each new generation.
Absolutely. And it's not just the mystery, it's the setting itself that adds to the allure. Hollywood in the 1940s, a place of glamour and dreams, but also a place where those dreams could easily turn into nightmares. It's the perfect backdrop for a noir mystery like the Black Dahlia.
And that's why it continues to resonate with writers, filmmakers, and artists. It's a story that speaks to the darker side of human nature, the clash between light and shadow, the fragility of hope in the face of despair.
And as long as those questions remain unanswered, the legend of the Black Dahlia will continue to grow.
So after diving deep into this case, what stands out to you? What are your thoughts on what might have happened to Elizabeth Short?
I think it's crucial to remember that Elizabeth Short was more than just a victim, more than a name in a headline. She was a young woman with her own story, her own hopes and dreams. And while we may never know exactly what happened to her, it's vital to approach this case with empathy and respect for the human tragedy at its core.
Perfectly said. We may never have all the answers, but we can keep asking questions, keep searching for the truth, and keep Elizabeth Short's memory alive.
The Black Dahlia case serves as a stark reminder that even in the brightest of places, darkness can lurk. And sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Black Dahlia case. It's a case that continues to captivate and challenge us, forcing us to confront the enduring power of mystery and the enduring need for justice.